Welcome to another episode of Chasing Labels. I'm your host, Stephen Billings, and with me, as always, Andrew Cabral. How you doing, man?
Doing good. That was an enthusiastic, energized.
It was, but
kick
I kept
in the pants
I
type
kept it
of
like right here in the zone,
right.
like,
But it felt like it
auto
came
zone.
from the chest, came from the heart.
It was all chest voice. It wasn't.
Yeah,
I could have been like Andrew Cabral,
Yeah, I
like
know.
getting head, but then I went.
But
"Hey,
I felt the power, the passion.
yes,
Felt it. It felt
You're
good.
welcome. You're
Got me
welcome.
energized. I'll tell you that.
Well, good. You know what it is? I've been watching one of your favorite shows
What's that?
lately, Everwood.
Oh my goodness! What brought you to
You
Everwood?
talk about this show all the time. Like, I feel like you brought this show up, like, because recently you brought it up because Treat Williams passed.
Yes,
And
I
did. And even before that, I've heard you bring up Everwood like multiple times. I'm like, I don't think I've ever watched the show. So like, I
Would be
suddenly
the
came
only
across.
one.
Yeah. It just came like I was looking for something to watch, and I was like, Andrew keeps talking about that Everwood show. So I went and just started watching it, and I've been binging it, and it's it's a nice light watch.
How far into it are you? Just out of curiosity.
I'm in the first season still. I'm
Okay.
still
Yeah.
I'm probably towards the tail end of the first season.
Gotcha.
But it's good. I mean, it's like coming from a generation where these types of shows were very popular, like like Dawson's Creek or One Tree Hill. This is like something that's a little bit more, I would say, adult.
It's interesting because it was on at the same time as
Yeah.
those shows. It was
Yeah.
pretty sure there was crossover between that, Gilmore Girls, like
Yep.
you just said, Dawson's Creek. It was one of those WB shows from the early to mid 2000s.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But it didn't have quite that teen angstiness in it. There's teen angst in it, but there's a balance between adult stuff, adult plot lines, and serious plot lines, and teen stuff going on.
Well, yeah,
I
and
always
it's
felt
not,
like it was more serious.
it definitely is more serious, and it's also like it doesn't play off of like the set. Of course, the setting's beautiful, but it's not like is romantic. I don't know. I mean, maybe it is for some people, but it's like Dawson's Creek was like in this like small Boston town, slash actually North Carolina, but Boston town, and it was the creek, and it was sunsets and everything. This is like half the year's snow, and it's the mountains, and it's like it's got a different feel.
It's set in Colorado,
Yeah.
but I don't think they shot in Colorado because I'm pretty sure the pilot was shot in Utah. There's a great shot, I think, in the opening credits of like the mountains. I'm pretty sure that's like the mountains of Utah or something like that.
Yeah.
I'd have to look it up.
I mean, I would assume the show was shot in Canada, which is where most
could very well be.
Yeah.
It's a show that I think really underrated when it was on, and it never really revisited a lot now. So it took years and years to just get the show on DVD, let alone have it on streaming and stuff. And a lot of it was due to music rights.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to go on a whole rant here.
That kills a lot of them shows from that time period.
Not even that,
Dawson's
even
Creek.
older stuff.
Yeah.
Even older stuff, because they didn't foresee home media being a thing for TV shows.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when they originally did the contracts for music rights, they probably only got the rights for broadcast television.
Yeah.
So they had to probably renegotiate the rights, reacquire the music, basically pay for it again. And a lot of the studios didn't want to do it. WB, I guess, didn't want to do it. That's happened with a lot of older shows.
You'd think they would mostly use their own music, but then they didn't.
Thing is, Blake Neely was the composer of the main theme, which is orchestral, and a lot of the other stuff was orchestral. But in the 2000s, you know this, Stephen, they would use popular music of the time in the shows. I mean, I'm rewatching Smallville now, and it's like all early 2000s alternative rock and pop and all that kind of stuff.
I'm just saying, like, Warner Brothers has their own music label.
Yeah.
Why didn't they just take from their own catalog?
I don't know. I guess it all depends on who wanted to do that at the time. But yeah, it was a formative show for me. I don't know, that network was I think a formative thing for a lot of people.
It is, and I'll say so far I'm enjoying it, and it's right there in my wheelhouse of types of shows that I liked growing up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a lot of people that show up in it that you'll recognize.
yeah,
Obviously, Chris Pratt is a
yeah.
regular on
He's
it.
yeah.
I mean, obviously, Treat Williams, of course, was a regular on it. Um, but I guess some people show up here and there that you'll probably recognize and whatnot, like Marsha
It,
Cross, who I think went on to be in Desperate
right
Housewives.
now in the episode I was watching, um, what's her name? McGavin, the actress. What's her Rosen what's her name? Damn it,
Rose McGowan?
Rose McGowan. Yeah, I believe she's Colin, the boy that has amnesia's sister, and they
No,
start.
that's not Rose McGowan, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, they look similar though, don't they?
She was that actress who I'm completely blanking on. Um, she was actually like a regular on ER afterwards or something like
Hmm.
that. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. She was in a couple of movies as well in that time
She
frame.
just for some reason I feel like she looked like her, but I don't know. But yeah, I mean it's we don't have to we got to get off
Yeah,
at
yeah.
Everwood, but
No,
I
the
just wanted to
actress.
say that I've been
Yeah.
enjoying Everwood, and
No,
it's
thank you.
and I've only been able to watch it on Freevee, unfortunately. So
Yeah, Nora Zehetner was the actress's name.
okay, okay,
Um, Sarah Drew, who comes on later, she was also on ER as well in the later seasons. Paul Wesley, who she shows up eventually. He was on other WB shows. You'll see it. You'll see it.
okay, man. All
But
right,
anyway, let's get off to the
we got to get
movie.
off of Everwood, but I
Yeah,
just wanted to say I was enjoying the show that you like a lot.
I
So
do. Ironically, we did get some TV on Blu-ray news this
oh,
week. I
we
guess
did
that's about as good as a transition as I could make
do it.
to, I guess, the first, I guess, company we're going to talk about. And that's I'm going to go with Kino just to make that transition easy.
Okay,
I mean, the TV news, which we don't really cover, but it's nice to kind of follow up on this, is Columbo
yeah.
is getting
This
a massive box set.
Yeah, this was kind of spoiled, I think, a couple months ago.
Yeah, we knew
Um,
this was coming.
yeah, yeah. There was I believe an interview with another YouTube channel, uh, Serial at Midnight. I believe he had the guy from Kino on, and he spilled a bunch of beans on upcoming release, and this is one of the ones I believe that was in that conversation he was talking about, was that we were going to get the Columbo coming out on with new 4K restorations. So that's
Yeah,
big. That's a big thing. Yeah,
new audio commentaries, new special features.
yeah.
Yeah, like you said, restored in 4K. It says Columbo the 1970s seasons 1 through 7. Um, yeah, basically the way Columbo was structured, not to get too TV-ish here, is it was kind of like a movie event of the week type of deal, where that's kind of the way it was, almost anthological, not quite serialized, if I remember correctly. But yeah, this is a massive box set, and the cover art, do want to mention, I believe, was done by Tony Stella.
Cool.
So yeah, so if you're a big fan of Columbo, or if you bought the DVDs, which have been available forever, this will be a nice upgrade. And Kino, from what I've heard, does really great stuff when it comes to their TV. But they also did something this week, kind of out of left field, a little bit. They started a whole new line within Kino called Kino Cult,
Mm.
and it's a numbered line.
Oh,
So
so they're kind of coming off of that streaming service that they started, because
yes,
they started a whole streaming service called Kino Cult, and
yeah.
so this is
So I think it's playing kind of on that line,
yeah.
but it's a whole new numbered line. Basically, it's starting. The first three releases were announced. Their first three releases are actually I'll do them in order.
Okay.
Lorna the Exorcist, which is Kino Cult number 1. This is you guessed it, people. This is a Jess Franco film.
Of course it
Like we've
is.
said it, Stephen. Everybody gets a
Ah,
Jess Franco film. Everybody gets one. There's plenty for
everybody, man.
everyone. There's plenty for everyone. And this is a movie and a half. Um, yes, so this is from cult director Jess Franco. I've seen this film. Man, let me put it to you this way, Stephen. The way in which one can watch this film, if they so choose to, currently is it has been uploaded on various adult entertainment websites because it is that type of movie. Very softcore-ish, sophomoric as well, but it's this weird trance-like movie, um, where this guy apparently makes a deal with a demon, and then 18 years or so later, this demon comes back to get to fulfill the deal.
Yeah.
Fulfill the deal. And of course, the deal that he made was done with this very attractive, very erotic, um, female demon. And of course, the deal was sealed with intercourse and all kinds of
Mm,
sexual things and all kinds of stuff. But
as you
basically,
do.
this demon is coming back to this guy's life because now this demon wants this guy's daughter. And I guess the deal that he made at the time was that he could conceive a child essentially with this demon, but also with his wife at the time. But the demon would then come and take this young woman 18 years later. So this demon comes back into this guy's life, and erotic, weird things happen. I will say this movie is about, and I think an hour and 40 minutes, an hour and something like that. The last 40 minutes of this movie, there are 4 sex scenes back to back to back to back. And that
Wow.
is the last 40 minutes of this movie, where the plot just kind of falls out the window. And Jess Franco is just like, here is just some erotic sexual scenes, and that was the end of the movie. And I was watching, I'm like, this movie just stopped. It just
Hmm.
stopped with plot. But this whole time it's got this slow rhythmic like 70s uh, uh, orchestral soundtrack to it that makes the pace of the movie way slower than I think it should have been. Complete with the wah wah 1970s pornographic music for the sex
Waka, waka,
scenes.
waka, waka,
That's
waka.
exactly stuff like that. And I was just like, tonally, this is all over the place, but very, very sexual film. Like, he does not hold back. The movie starts, Stephen, with a about 10-minute sex scene.
Okay.
That's how the movie starts.
Cool.
So this is all Jess Franco. Nudity and eroticism, demon stuff going on, all
Love
kinds
it.
of crazy stuff. But that is the number one with a bullet
That's
released
yeah.
from this Kino
Yeah.
cult line.
That's it.
Lorne
That's
of the
the
Exorcist.
yeah. Number
And
2.
and then number 2 is Alien Outlaw, starring Lash LaRue. And this is a movie that, yeah, so aliens have landed, and these aliens hunt for sport. When a UFO crash lands in the Appalachian backcountry, it releases a squad of interstellar predators playing the most dangerous game with any Earthlings who cross their path. Sounds a little familiar. Sounds kind of like Predator. Even though this
Sure.
came out in '85, and I think didn't Predator come out after that? Um, I think Predator came out in '86. No, '87. So, yeah, this is a little bit before Predator, but similar premise. Um, but these alien outlaws encounter unexpected assistance in the form of a gun-toting blonde, played by Kari Anderson, and her mentor, Western legend Lash LaRue.
Mm.
Phil Smoot's second creature feature following The Dark Power, which I will get to, is both a clever send-up of the 1950s rubber suit monster genre and a loving homage to the 1940s B Western. So you got yourself a little B-movie sci-fi actioner from the 80s. This has 2 audio commentaries, one with the director, one with cast and crew, 4K restoration. Um, yeah, so this is Kino Cult number 2.
All right. I'm seeing a
Seeing a
pattern
pattern here.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you did that culty, maybe even I would say Kino
Sleazy,
sleaze.
culty,
Yeah.
low budget B-movie grade stuff. This is kind of the stuff you see from that we've seen from Vinegar Syndrome, that we've seen
Yeah.
from Severin, that we've seen from even like maybe Blue Underground and stuff like that. So they're getting into this kind of cult game that I think everybody else has really adopted as well and has had great success in. Um, this just happens to be from Kino. So, but Kino Cult number 3 is a movie I actually did get to see way late last night, and that is The Dark Power. And The Dark Power also has Lash LaRue in it, also directed by Phil Smoot. This came out in 1985. And yeah, this 4K restoration as well from the 16 millimeter camera negative, 2 commentaries similar to the other one, and a featurette, I think, similar to the other one. So they're putting in some significant effort into these releases. But what happens in this film is that an indigenous Yeah, so the movie starts with an indigenous person passing away, but he leaves behind an ancient Toltec curse that unleashes an army of indigenous zombies that come back from the dead and haunt this house. But in typical 1980s fashion, a bunch of young women just happen to rent the house out of nowhere, and they
Stupid.
are then preyed upon by these zombie people, and they gotta fight them off. And
Mm,
Lash LaRue plays the sheriff, who at one point in the film has a showdown with one of the zombies with a whip, and they're like whipping each other back and forth. It's ridiculous
sounds
because you could
amazing.
tell the whip isn't reaching the other person, like it's way too short. Yeah, this movie is very, very silly, very bad. Yeah, it's not great. It's a cult film from the 80s for a reason. Um, but yeah, that's the premise of this. So you're getting you, it's living up to the name. It's living up to the name of these cult type films. These I should mention these are all coming with slip covers as well. Like I said, they're all numbered. The numbers seem to be on the side from what I've seen from the artwork. Um, and yeah, so it's
Okay.
another thing. I know people really get fixated on the numbered lines of special editions and stuff like that. So if that catches your eye, then this is kind of for you. But the movies are not particularly great. And Jess Franco is on a whole other platform onto himself in terms of like what his movies are. I was trying to describe it to somebody last night, and I'm like, these have the weird sexual energy of John Waters films, but don't have any of the charm, and they're kind of boring. And that's how I was trying to describe it. It's like it's not funny and it's not really erotic. It's just disturbing and kind of boring. At least that was what I got from Lorne of the Exorcist. But I we've got another one from Kino here that doesn't have a number yet, but it's a 4K. So there's gonna be 4Ks in this Kino Cult line as well. So coming in 2024 to UHD 4K and Blu-ray from Kino Cult is Ilsa She-Wolf of the SS. Um, why does
Well,
that movie
these
sound
are
familiar?
these are a series of films that don't have, as you said, a release yet, a schedule, a date yet. But it's four different movies that they say is going to be coming soon. Um, so you got Elsa, that she wolf of the SS. Then you have Elsa Harlem, keeper of the oil sheiks. Elsa, the tigress of Siberia, and Elsa, the wicked warden. So
Yes.
yeah.
So this whole series of
And,
1970s,
and guess who directs the last one I just said?
Jess Franco.
Yes.
I've seen it right here. Yeah.
So yeah, it's seems like some more sleaze.
Yeah,
Just
it's
with
Kino Sleaze line, I guess, which
yeah,
is fine, which is,
yeah,
they're not the only ones, like I said, to do it. It's definitely a new look from them. Kind of exciting, really, just to see what they can do with this whole line and see how well it will catch on. Just because I think, some of the other ones have been doing it for so long that they've kind of cornered the market on this type of stuff. But we shall see
yeah.
when they start coming out in November. Not November. When are these coming out, Steven? October.
Good Christmas
Yes.
gift. Good Christmas gifts. Yeah.
Very much so. But moving on from Kino, let's move, I guess, to the opposite of maybe not so much, but let's move to Warner Archive.
All right.
Because Warner Archive, once again, coming out of the shadows, this time with their September announcements, which is right around the corner. Steven, you want to run these down for me?
All right. Well, we got a good amount here. We got I think 6 releases. And so this looks like we got a lot of different time periods. I hear some people say Warner Archive, they just keep releasing older movies. But here um so starting out we got from 1998 we have Palmetto, if I'm saying that right.
Right.
From 1937 we got Sartoga. From 1951, we have Westward the Woman. And then from 1933, we have Christopher Strong. And then from 2000, we have Before Night Falls. And from 1997, we have Cats Don't Dance. So yeah, Cats Don't Dance. That looks like that's going to be the best one of the line here.
Did you ever see that when you were growing up?
I think so. It looks familiar.
I remember I probably watched it. Well, I watched it for the podcast, but I remember when it came out. I remember seeing it, or maybe seeing it on TV at the time, or something like that. It was very very familiar to me. Um, so I guess we'll start talking about Cats Don't Dance. It's an animated film from 1997. Um, and it's getting a 4K restoration, as I think all of these are. That's typical. That's Warner
Yeah,
Archive 101 is 4K restorations. But this film is very charming. It's very very you know very good. It's very much in line with a lot of, I think, 90s theatrical animation, which outside of Disney doesn't get talked about a lot. It really
yeah,
wasn't until the 2000s when we started getting like Pixar, DreamWorks, and then Illumination, and all these other kind of companies were showing up. I remember not seeing a lot of animation in the theaters in the 90s. I remember growing early on. I saw Fievel Goes West, I think, in the theaters. Um, yeah, maybe things adjacent like Pagemaster was animated a bit. Um, but anywho, Cats Don't Dance is a movie that's about this cat who's voiced by Scott Bakula, and he's moving from a small town to going to Hollywood to achieve his dreams. And I believe this is actually like a period piece. I think it's set in 1930s Hollywood. There's so many references to Warner Brothers movies in this film um, that are it's so charming in that regard. Also, it's a movie that's about, fulfilling your dream, not giving up on it, all that kind of stuff. And so this cat, who is, like I said, portrayed by Scott Bakula or voiced by him, his name is Danny, and he wants to be, like kind of a Gene Kelly, a Fred Astaire. He wants to dance in the movies. He wants to make it big, but he gets to the Hollywood, and lo and behold, Hollywood's just not a very friendly place for animal actors. They're relegated to animal roles of which they have no lines. He gets a job in a movie, and it's a Noah's Ark movie where he's just an animal in the background that says meow.
yeah,
Like that's
yeah.
his lines, you know? And but he wants to like inject a song and dance part in the movie. And there's this young ingenue, this young child actress who's just a spoiled brat who is a big and upcoming star, kind of like a Shirley Temple, but much meaner, much more meaner and stuff like that. And she wants nothing to do with these animals trying to get in the movies and all this kind of stuff. So it's antagonistic and all that kind of things. Some things of note about this movie that I find fascinating. This is actually the last production that Gene Kelly ever worked on. He did the choreography for the movie, and I believe he passed away before the movie came out, but it's credited, or I think he has an uncredited really on IMDb of working on this movie doing the dance choreography in it. Gene Kelly, of course, many people know him for many of his roles, including Singing in the Rain and stuff like that. And yeah, and that's kind of who this character is modeled after, this Danny character. Another couple of actors of note in here: George Kennedy plays LB Mammoth, who is supposed to be the LB mayor of the movie. You've got John Rhys Davies from Lord of the Rings fame and Indiana Jones fame is in this film. Hal Holbrook is in this film. Don Knotts does a voice. Frank Welker from Transformers fame. And yeah, it's a very charming movie. I really liked it a lot. I didn't realize this movie's not really available to stream anywhere. I'm surprised this hasn't been on HBO Max or a Max or anything like that, even though it's a Warner Brothers property.
It's not
But I liked
surprising.
it. Yeah, but I really, really liked the charm of this movie. It brought back a lot of memories of, being a kid in the 90s watching movies like this. For some reason, the whole time I was thinking of Rockadoodle. I don't know why.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know why.
I mean, first thing I thought about was like something. I mean, like like All Dogs Go to Heaven, like that type of style of animation, or with
Yeah, it's
animals and
not
like
as serious as a movie as that. I was thinking, yeah, of like an All Dogs Go to Heaven, Land Before Time. That was a lot of stuff from the 80s, that harsh, like Secret of Nim.
yeah,
Um, yeah, those movies are so unique for that time. This movie obviously much much lighter than that, but if you know kind of like Hollywood history. It has a lot of Easter eggs in there for it. But some of these other films are interesting. This is a very diverse group, actually, very diverse group of films. So Saratoga, not just to swing the pendulum, is a film the starring Clark Gable and Jean Harlow. This was actually Jean Harlow's last film that she ever did before she passed away. She was very, very sick at the time while making the movie, and I believe she died, after the movie was made in 1937. And I think Clark Gable and Jean Harlow were an item at the time as well, if I remember correctly. So this was her last film. That's something of note as well. Yeah, I saw this movie years ago. So on screen, Jean Harlow is pure platinum, white blonde, rare, glamorous, and tough, but she was fragile in real life. Yeah, succumbing to kidney disease at the achingly young age of 26, just as this film was wrapping. So Saratoga became what it was never intended to be, a farewell to the great star. Harlow shares the screen with a dazzling cast, including her sixth time with her ideal romantic sparring partner, Clark Gable. The story, with its colorful racing circuit setting, is a hoot, a snappy, sexy, quipping tale of a horse breeder's daughter who is engaged to an upstanding millionaire, portrayed by Walter Pigeon, but drawn to a brash bookie, Clark Gable.
Mhm.
Saratoga opened the month after Harlow's death, and grieving fans made it a box office smash. Lionel Barrymore is also in the film. Frank Morgan's in the film. Una Merkel's in the film. Yeah, this is one I think definitely I'm excited for, just to get more Jean Harlow in the collection, in my personal collection, and just on Blu-ray in general. So I'm excited for that. Now let's get to some 90s sleaze.
Okay.
Steven, how do you feel about 90s sleaze? Um,
I well, I mean, I bought 2 box sets of it,
yes, you
from
did.
Imprint, so
How do you feel about 90s sleaze directed by somebody who's directed not one but two films in the Criterion collection? So that's what I'm going to give this to you.
sounds like you're trying to sell me on these
So
movies.
Palmetto is a 90s neo-noir, sleazy, sexy type of movie starring Woody Harrelson, Elizabeth Shue, Gina Gershon, Michael Rappaport. Chloe Sevigny is in this film as well in a small role, but it is directed by Volker Schlondorf. Volker Schlondorf, or Schlundorf, as it's probably more adequately pronounced, directed The Tin Drum, and he directed the movie Ball, which is also in the Criterion collection as well. I had a revelation while watching this movie about two-thirds in that it was directed by Volker Schlondorf, who I also believe has a Criterion Closet video from several years ago as well. So yeah, it's what an interesting kind of a late career turn for this director. Um, and it's not saying that the movie's all bad. It's just it's not a movie that I would say is very exciting. It kind of falls in by the books. So what happens is Woody Harrelson is this recently paroled guy who um he was falsely imprisoned because he was a journalist, and he got some evidence that was planted on him that he took a bribe, but he really didn't take a bribe, and he ends up in prison, but he ends up out in like 2 to 4 years or something like that. But he ends up meeting this gorgeously, just a beautifully attractive, sexy beyond all belief, rich woman in Elizabeth Shue's character. And Elizabeth Shue basically wants him to do something for her in order to screw her ailing older husband out of some money. Basically, she wants to fake a with her stepdaughter, who's the real daughter of her husband, in order to hold her for ransom so that she can collect the ransom. And she's going to offer him the ransom's going to be for $500,000. She's going to give him $50,000 just to assist with this kidnapping, essentially make a threatening phone call. That's all she wants from him. But there's twists and turns along the way. He kind of gets in deep with this woman, and all kind of bad things start going down because he gets himself in too deep with this femme fatale Chew. And yeah, it sounds a lot sexy and cool on the surface, but when the third act hits, you can kind of see it playing out exactly what it is. You can see the twists and turns coming. But
Alright.
it's a fine film. It's a fine 90s, you know, I wouldn't even say erotic thriller. It is a bit. Um, but yeah, that's Palmetto. And I remember hearing about this movie like years ago, but not realizing the plot of it, not realizing who directed it or who was really in it.
All right. Well, I like Woody Harrelson. I like the and Elizabeth Shue's always been kind of a crush of mine.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. So
Same here. That's what really drew me to this film in general. But Westward the Women is a movie I've actually been wanting to watch for years, and I'm glad it's getting a Blu-ray release. This is a movie directed by William Wellman. William Wellman, a classic Hollywood director, breaking all kinds of rules. Hence, why the Hays Code was really put in place because of a lot of the stuff he was doing in pre-code times. But Westward the Women is an interesting, unique Western starring Robert Taylor, Denise Darcel, and some others. And this is basically a movie set in, I would say, mid 19th century. I want to say 1840s, late 1840s, something like that, where 150 women have to make a wagon trip from, I think, like Chicago or Missouri type area to the West. And the movie's basically them traversing the harshness of a wagon train going to the West. Um, yeah, and they have to go, I think, all the way to California. And the purpose of it is like, I think there are men out there working at a camp, and in order to kind of like satisfy them, they need to bring in women in order to like keep them happy. That's kind of the premise of the movie, but that's more of the MacGuffin premise. The real premise is them having to overcome gender biases. You know what I mean?
mm,
Or having to fight the harshness of making that trek through the West. The movie's very unflinching in its approach to that. Like characters die, people die in tragic ways, like whether it's being attacked by the Native Americans at the time, whether it's wagons falling over cliffs, whether it's people drowning, starvation, accidents, whatever the premise or whatever the case may be. It shows that very unflinchingly, which is what I really liked about the movie. So I was all in for it, and it definitely lived up to the hype. I think the movie was also co-written by Frank Capra.
it is. Yep.
So that's pretty cool. Um, so this is definitely something that's on my to buy list in the future, in the ever growing Warner Archive movies I need to get list. Um, and I just like classic westerns. So Christopher Strong is a movie I saw years ago when I was going down this whole trek of trying to see every Katharine Hepburn movie I could ever see. This was a movie I probably saw maybe on TCM on demand or something like that. Maybe even the Filmstruck days. Directed by Dorothy Arzner, who was one of the only women to make movies during the Hollywood's golden age. We've heard about her work in Dance Girl Dance, Merrily We Go to Hell, which both have Criterion releases. And now this has a Blu-ray release from Warner Archive. And Katharine Hepburn plays an intelligent, liberated, unconventionally beautiful aviatrix pilot, essentially, who soars into a torrid affair with Colin Clive as a fellow aristocrat and crashes into an unendurable heartbreak. Isn't that always the case?
It is.
So yeah, this is another film also on my to-do list, to buy list. I got to get all the Katharine Hepburn I possibly can. An early Katharine Hepburn release, 1933, which was very early on in her career. So I got to get my hands on this one. And then I think there's one more here, right?
Yeah, you got Before Night Falls.
Before Night Falls was actually a movie I had never heard of until it was announced, and I probably should have. And I'm probably saying that and probably lying. I just probably didn't know what it was. This is an early film starring Javier Bardem. Javier
And
Bardem
a
is
lot of people are in this movie. Johnny
yeah,
Depp's in this movie.
Johnny Depp, Diego Luna, Sean Penn. Um, it's an episodic look at the life of Cuban poet and novelist Ronaldo Arenas, who lived from 1943 to 1990, from his childhood in Oriente province to his death in New York City. And yeah, it's a biopic. It's a very critically acclaimed biopic in the sense that I believe Javier Bardem was nominated for an Oscar for this film. Um, he, yeah, and I probably didn't know that, but maybe looking it up at one point, I perhaps had seen that and not even known what this movie was. But yeah, so it's a movie about someone who I didn't know a lot about. This guy Ronaldo Arenas, he was a poet, a novelist, an author, and a political activist. He was anti-communist, anti-Castro, and he got himself in a lot of trouble for that. He was also homosexual, which of course got him in a lot of trouble as well. Living in Cuba during the 1960s and 1970s, he was imprisoned falsely for a lot of reasons, and he escaped Cuba and came over to the United States and continued his anti-Cuban, anti-Castro advocacy up until his death in 1990 from, unfortunately, AIDS, which is depicted in a very, very sad way in the film, as all of those who have passed from that horrific disease is. But yeah, so I this was a very big surprise to me, a movie I had not really known anything about.
Yeah,
Um, I feel as if the performance by Javier Bardem is better than the actual film itself. And it's one of those biopics that's trying to cover, childhood through adulthood and death all within like 2 hours and 20 minutes, which is really hard to do. It's hard to do
yeah,
that balance. So the movie's kind of a bit all over the place when it comes to pacing and story and plot. So it's more episodic, more anthological, and you kind of have to know a little bit about Ronaldo Arenas' life to kind of put all the pieces together yourself as you're watching. But Javier Bardem is phenomenal in the movie, just incredible. Um, yeah.
awesome.
So
Yeah,
yeah, that's
there's
before the Night
there's a
Falls.
few biopics that that I think about that are like that, where it's like the acting performance kind of outweighs how I feel about the movie. You in generally, like I'm like, the movie's okay, but that performance was like I think of something like maybe like King's Speech. Like
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think about the performance that he gives in that movie. What's his name?
Colin
Co-
Firth.
yeah, Colin Firth. That I liked his performance way more than I liked the whole movie. You know,
I think along those lines when I think of Dallas Buyers Club with
Dallas
Matthew
Buyers. That's a pretty
McConaughey
good one.
and
Yeah,
Jared Leto. I always think of their performances more than I think about the actual plot of the movie or the actual
yeah.
story of the movie. Or the way not so much the story, but just the way in which the movie tells it. I think about that a lot.
The
Uh,
what's the Gary Oldman's movie where he finally won
oh
the
my
Oscar?
goodness, is it Darkest Hour?
Darkest Hour. Yeah, I don't think about that movie, but his performance was amazing.
Yeah, it kind of takes over that whole movie,
Yeah.
literally.
So yeah, there's a lot of movies like that where it's just you, you just want to go back and see how good they were, but the movie's like, yeah. All right. Well, that's it for Warner Archive. You want to get some of these single releases out of the way?
Sure, sure.
That you
Let me
had.
see what we've got here. Let's see.
You got
I'm clicking through my tabs.
you
So,
got Oscilloscope. How about that?
oh yes, we do have Oscilloscope. There's actually two from Oscilloscope. First up is Sirens from 2022. So description: Sirens intimately chronicles the lives and music of Slave to Sirens, a band made up of five young metalheads whose burgeoning fame is set against the backdrop of the Lebanese Revolution. Its members wrestle with friendship, sexuality, and destruction as their music serves as a refuge to Beirut's youth culture. At the band's core are its two founding members, Elias Miasi and Cheryl Bakara, whose complicated relationship and subsequent tense fallout threatens the very fabric of the band. An even greater looming threat, however, is Lebanon's criminalization of homosexuality, as well as the wholly devastating effects of their country's political regime. Despite their obvious challenges, the members of Slave to Sirens persist in trying to create a revolution of their own, living their truth. Cool.
Huh.
This is a
Oh,
mod. Yeah, this is obviously 2022. Wasn't that long ago?
Is this like based on true story? Is this like real? Is
I
this a
think it's. Well, I think it's a
documentary?
documentary.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I think
Yeah, I'm pretty
sounds like
sure
a
it's.
documentary.
Yeah,
The
I'm
way it's
pretty sure it's a
described.
documentary.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Obviously dealing with a lot of political strife at that time, or the time in which they're talking about, is with all of that plus the complications of the music industry and at any level really in human relationships is fascinating in and of itself. I mean, we've seen many large bands fall apart because of inner turmoil and stuff like that, let alone
Yeah.
having political pressures from the outside also affecting it as well. Um, yeah, that sounds very interesting to me.
Yeah,
Yeah, oscilloscope we don't talk about a lot, but they put out some interesting stuff.
they do. What's the
So
other
the
release?
yeah, the other one from oscilloscope is Clara Sola. Um, and the description goes as follows. In a remote village in Costa Rica, 40-year-old Clara endures a repressively religious and withdrawn life under the command of her mother. Her uncanny affinity for creatures large and small allows Clara to find solace in the natural world around her. Tension builds within the family as Clara's younger niece approaches her quinceañera, igniting a sexual and mystical awakening in Clara and a journey to free herself from the conventions that have dominated her life. That sounds very fascinating. This came out in 2021. Um, yeah, I'm fascinated by movies dealing with overcoming oppression or repression in any way, specifically of the religious kind, because that seems to be prevalent throughout the generations. Uh,
Mm.
Religion does seem to bog people down in its dogma and in its stance on certain things. And having to overcome those things and kind of awaken yourself to the world outside of it is always a fascinating personal journey, I think, for many people. Um, yeah, I'm interested in this.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. All right, MVD.
Ah, yes, MVD. So MVD,
They're putting out the Coen Brothers movie.
yeah,
God,
exactly, exactly. So it's
finally.
it's Hail Caesar from 1994, and this is part of their. Is it MVD Rewind? Yes, it is.
Yes, yes.
So here we go. This movie. You can watch this movie currently streaming on Tubi, which is where I watched it. In I'm assuming the wrong aspect ratio because it was 4:3 or 133 to 1. But I guess that's the only way this movie is available currently. So before everybody gets all excited on the cast list here, hold your horses. So this movie is directed and starring Anthony Michael Hall. It does say that Robert Downey Jr. is in this film, but he is in this movie for about a total of 5 minutes. He shows up in one scene pretending to be a record producer, and then he shows up at the very end of this movie. Am I spoiling anything for you? No, I'm not. Because quite honestly, this is not a very good movie. All of the reviews and all the ratings I saw had this movie rated so low, and I was like, "How is can't be that bad?" And it kind of is, but the thing is, it's not outright bad. It's just outright, I think, uninteresting.
Mm.
Or at least it tries
It,
to be
it
something interesting, and it doesn't achieve that.
isn't it. Isn't that worse than being
Yeah,
bad?
it's like middling. It's just like in like flat. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just absolutely flat. So so Anthony Michael Hall plays this character called Julius Caesar Magruder, and the way he justifies how his name is that his parents were archaeologists who were fascinated by Roman history, and they named their son Julius Caesar. And he's this kind of early to mid 20 something slacker loser type of guy who is just in this band and he doesn't really have any aspirations in life. You've seen many of these cats before. But he has a really rich, very wealthy girlfriend, and her name is Buffer. That's her name.
What?
It's like I said,
So
very
she's just
odd
there
type
to
of
fill.
movie.
She's just there for a minute. She's just a
She's in the
buffer.
movie, but like it's interesting because the whole movie is kind of revolves around her a bit. Um, Not so much. Yeah, it's not a good movie. So her father obviously hates him because he's the slacker loser guy who doesn't have any aspirations in life, and his daughter is important to him and all that kind of stuff. And he makes a bet with the father that if he makes $100,000 in 6 months, he will still be allowed to date his daughter. If he doesn't, then he can't date his daughter. It's a stupid, stupid shit, right? The way they frame it in the movie makes it sound as if he's buying her from the father. It's really dumb. Um, and
Billy Madison had a better
it's
bet.
a very Billy Madison X plot, but with none of the good humor, none of the good charm of it. Nothing really. It's so flat and so dead on arrival. But her father even decides to give him a job at his factory, and his factory apparently makes pencil erasers.
Ooh.
But it makes pencil erasers, but there's some behind the scenes sleazy stuff going on there that is also happening. They're basically making
What,
like
they're making pens too?
no, no, they're making like
Oh,
plastic explosives. Don't ask me why. They never really go into why. They never really go into who they're
okay.
selling it to, whether they're selling it for the military or selling it to the various people or
Anthony
whatever. They
Michael
never
like,
go
I
into
got to
it.
put a political statement in the
Yeah,
movie.
it's like it's just there. But they
Okay.
give him a job there, then they promote him to manager just to just to make him like a fall guy if anything goes bad. Meanwhile, like his band's frustrated with him because he doesn't want to practice. He has to work. This movie, like I just said, I'm explaining it poorly, but it's really a poorly made movie. Not a great script, and it's tonally being goofy without paying it off, really, which is a damn shame. Just because I think Anthony Michael Hall is really giving it his all in this movie. Being an actor, being a director in it as well, and just trying to go for something, but it just none of it's really earned. Also, Samuel L. Jackson shows up in this movie for a good 3 minutes of screen time, just for the heck of it. Keep in mind, this movie came out the same year that he was in Pulp Fiction. Wrap that in your mind, and just put that in
Mm.
your mind in 1994. But yeah, out of all kind of these sophomoric 1990s, like a young adult comedies, this one I think is forgotten, and I think it's forgotten for a reason. But yeah, it's not a great movie. Also,
Damn.
Judd Nelson makes a cameo in here just to give you that Breakfast Club
Of
reunion that you need.
course. Does he
Um,
pump his fist in the air?
no, he's in prison in one
Well,
scene.
I guess he's not pumping his fist while he's in
No,
prison.
and this comes with, nothing really in the way of special features other than trailers and a collectible mini poster and a
Alright.
slipcover. So MVD, that's MVD Rewind.
MVD Rewind.
Yeah, I think this was the last movie that I think I watched for this week, and I was like, "I just can't do it
Sorry.
anymore."
Sorry.
But moving on from there, we've got, um let's go to Cohen Media Group, because Cohen Media Group has one release, and this is, another one of their double features that they keep doing of, like, silent era stuff. Or at least stuff from that time period. We've got a double feature here, another Douglas Fairbanks double feature of The Three Musketeers and The Iron Mask. And what I really appreciate about what they're doing, this is coming out in October, by the way, October 17th, is they're doing significant restoration work on a lot of these older films. Um, yeah, they're getting the best materials they possibly can to resurrect these films really from the ether. Um, so I'm really, really, you know, giving them props for that. I think, yeah, I trying to get the year dates on these movies, but of course it's not showing me the year dates on it. But I know the Three Musketeers I think was from 1921, and then um the Iron Mask. I almost want to say Man in the Iron Mask. You know how badly I want to say Man in the
I
Iron Mask right
know.
now. I'm one of the few people who actually really like that movie.
You are.
Talk about a cast. My goodness. Talk about a cast. But yeah, so that's a Douglas Fairbanks double feature if anyone's interested in some more Douglas Fairbanks goodness. But moving on from there, Studio Canal has two movies that they're putting out through their, I think they have a bit of a cult line as well. Yeah, the cult classics line called Blazing Magnum from 1976, and then The Antichrist. But it's not Lars von Trier's The Antichrist. It's a different movie. It's a movie directed by Alberto Di Martino, so it's an Italian film, and these are interesting because I don't know much about their cult classics line, Steven.
No, I don't think I've gotten any of their cult
No, I'm
classics.
just I'm just looking at this, article here they have on Blu-ray.com, and it looks like they come with um like like art cards or something like that, which look very, very cool. But I do want to get the premise of these movies. So, Blazing Magnum. After his sister was poisoned, tough cop Tony Saito embarks on a violent journey to find her killer, which turns into a whirlpool of revenge and betrayal. Directed by Alberto Di Martino and starring Stuart Whitman, John Saxon, and Oscar winner Martin Landau, who was in
Mm.
North by Northwest. Um, yeah, this is getting a new 4K restoration. These are Region B locked, So if you don't have a region-free player, you can't play them. But The Antichrist, also directed by Alberto Di Martino. A car accident caused by her father leaves the young Ippolita paralyzed and her mother dead. Following her uncle's advice, she undergoes a hypnotic session with the intent to heal her, but it actually awakens the spirit of her ancestress who was condemned for witchcraft. And that happens. That happens.
Damn.
This has a score by Ennio Morricone.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
All right. Yeah, these are both coming out. Actually, Blazing Magnum comes out August 21st, and The Antichrist comes out September 11th.
Well,
So
nice. Where are we going
let's
next?
stay in the UK. I think this is a UK company with Signal One Entertainment.
Yes.
Because they've got 3 releases. We've got Death Race 2000, which is the Roger Corman film. The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, which stars Peter Cushing. And then we've got Shark! Exclamation point, starring Burt Reynolds and quote unquote directed by Samuel Fuller from 1969. And I want
that was
yeah,
going to be
go
the
on.
original title for the movies that are coming out now. The Meg. They were gonna call it Shark, but then they realized
Or
these
Big
movies.
Shark.
Well, yeah, now they realize that these movies already had taken that title. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What is interesting is I don't think a lot of people know that they apparently made shark movies before Jaws.
Jaws. Yeah.
Before 1975. I guess they made monster attack movies. What is interesting, this movie was actually re-released following the success of Jaws to kind of capitalize on the success of Jaws to see if they could make more money from it. So,
Good for them.
so this movie was, like I said, quote unquote, directed by Samuel Fuller, but this is not Samuel Fuller's cut of the movie. His original title for the movie was going to be called Caine, Caine, which is the name of the Burt Reynolds character in the movie. His name is Caine. He's this like treasure hunter, nefarious guy who washes up, not really washes up on the shore, but he gets stuck in the Sudan, which is on um, the eastern shore of Africa. He gets stuck there after a botched job that he was on. He's a gun runner. That's what he is. Yeah, gun runner, smuggler, bad, nefarious dude. Yeah, he's a gun runner who loses his cargo near a small coastal Sudanese town, so he's stuck there. When a woman hires him to raid a sunken ship in shark-infested waters, he sees a chance to compensate for his losses. He's not the only one. That's the official IMDb synopsis, and essentially that is the case. He's some people hire him for a job, but they're kind of backstabby-ish. You know what I mean? This movie is not great. It doesn't have a high rating on IMDb. I know those aren't the end-all be-all things or Letterboxd, but it is kind of appropriately rated at a low 4.5. It's not a good movie. Yeah, like I said, the original title of the movie was supposed to be called Caine, and what happened is the movie was taken from Samuel Fuller in post-production after he had already edited his cut of the movie. It was taken from him, re-edited by the studio or someone the studio hired, and they didn't tell him about it. And then when he saw the movie, he's like, that's not my movie, take my name off of this. And they refused to do that, and that's why his name is still on the movie. But apparently he never wanted to talk about this movie ever after it came out. So yeah, so that's the story behind this movie. Even Burt Reynolds cannot save this movie for being kind of uneventful, and not uneventful, but just kind of boring, if you will. Um, yeah, it's not a very entertaining movie. The most exciting things it just takes place underwater, where people are. It's clearly stunt people diving in water and stuff, and even the whole shark part of it doesn't play a big factor into the movie. It's mostly about Burt Reynolds having to deal with these nefarious people and him being stuck in the Sudan. Arthur Kennedy is in this film. He plays a drunk doctor. He's probably one of the best parts of the movie, in my opinion, because like they're always trying to get him to do stuff, and he's just kind of hammered the entire time, and he's going through
So
like he's going through like, when people are drunk, they just start saying random things and acting randomly and stuff like that. He captured that very well.
So he's Paulie from the Rocky series.
Kind of, yes. Kind of, yes. And he kind of works with the Burt Reynolds character, although he's not much help because he's constantly inebriated. And then at one point, Burt Reynolds' character takes like this young kid under his wing as well. Like this one of these young local kids to be like his short round from Indiana Jones, I guess. I don't quite understand, but yeah, the movie's not that good. It's clearly not a movie. I clearly wish we got the Samuel Fuller cut that we were supposed to get. But I guess we'll never see it. But that's one of the movies from Signal One. The other two are obviously um Death Race 2000. I'm pretty sure many people have seen Death Race 2000. It's the Roger Corman film. Um, yeah, it's favorite driver Frankenstein, portrayed by David Carradine, takes on Machine Gun Joe Viterbo, Sylvester Stallone, in this classic adrenaline thriller. However, this year's events are about to be complicated by the efforts of a small but dedicated army of revolutionaries. Their overthrow of Mr. President hinges on the sabotage of the race and the elimination of Frankenstein, but Frankenstein himself is not what he seems. So yeah, it's the race across. It's the race across that's possibly sabotage and all this kind of stuff. Everyone kind of knows this movie. If you don't, it's a fun, Roger Corman-esque B movie, grindhouse movie from the 1970s. Um, Yeah, it's in a dystopian future, a cross-country automobile race requires contestants to run down innocent pedestrians to gain points that are tallied based on each kill's brutality. Yeah, but it's done in a silly way. Murder, but done in a silly
Murder.
grindhouse way. I guess. I wanted to make sure that I had the correct premise of the movie. That's why I read the premise twice. But yeah, and then the other film is um a vampire film starring Peter Cushing, I believe. Yeah, Professor Van Helsing, portrayed by
Yes.
Peter Cushing, and Count Dracula, John Forbes Robinson, meet again in this spectacular kung fu horror set in the village of Ping Quay. After learning about the 7 golden vampires of the village, Si Ching, Vanessa Buren, and Mei Kuei offer to guide Van Helsing and his son to Ping Quay to free it from the curse of Count Dracula. That is the movie. We're going to get into this, and this is a Hammer film, but we're going to get into a lot more Peter Cushing very, very soon. So hold that thought.
Right.
So moving on
where else should we go?
I don't know. We got some culture shock news, and we got some culture shock releases, and we got some TerrorVision stuff. They're kind of teaming up. So I guess we'll go with that. So let me see. So we've got. So first, let's get to the news. Culture Shock. The label has announced a brand new arrangement with Greyface, which will distribute its titles. Other upcoming titles from Culture Shock include Lone Wolf from 1988, The Refrigerator from 1991, Late Night Classics Volume 2, which I believe contains Assault of the Party Nerds from 1989, Assault of the Party Nerds 2, The Heavy Petting Detective from 1995. But they're also releasing another film here in September, which is called Night of the Bastard. Boy, bastards. So disgruntled hermit Reed lives in a solitary life in the desert. After chasing away a group of damn youths, trying to party near his home, his peaceful life is violently upheaved when a group of demonic cultists lay siege to his house. Forced to partner up with one of the partygoers, Reed and his newfound colleague must defend themselves into the night, all while long buried and disturbing secrets are revealed to him as part of the cult's evil master plan. Okay. So sounds like a 1980s defend yourself, even though it's not a 1980s film. It came out in 2022. So hold the phone on that one. So yeah, that's an interesting new release.
I heard a lot of people buzzing. I heard a lot of people buzzing about Lone Wolf, like it was was something that people were into. So, I mean, it's cool seeing some of these partner labels branching out and becoming their own entities. So, Yeah.
So,
Good luck
yeah,
with
and
Culture Shock. Yeah.
you can find Night of the Bastard on TerrorVision's website. I think they've teamed up with, like, the same that Grave what did I say? Gravesite? What did I call them? Graveface. I think they've teamed up with that distribution company to distribute their stuff.
Yeah.
But going to TerrorVision's website, they did announce another one in part of their 13 weeks till Halloween of releases. You know, the TerrorVision Tuesday stuff they've got going on. And this movie, oh my goodness, how do I describe this fucking movie? So this movie is called All Jacked Up and Full of Worms.
Huh.
It's a newer film, um, and holy sweet shit, this movie is insane. You can actually, I think, watch it right now on Tubi. I believe it's streaming. Yeah, this movie came out in 2022. The movie runs about an hour and 12 minutes long, but it's an hour and 12 minutes long of just fucked up crazy shit. So Roscoe is a maintenance worker at a scuzzy hotel looking for an escape, a desire that becomes twisted reality when he and some others discover a stash of powerful hallucinogenic worms that take the group on a trip to hell. Guaranteed to offend or disgust, All Jacked Up and Full of Worms is a mind-bending experiment in pushing the boundaries of cinema. Director Alex Phillips delivers an absurd adventure that delighted Fantasia audiences and will take viewers on a wild ride in this premiere Blu-ray release, courtesy of TerrorVision, complete with new special features, including commentary, interview, and short films. This is the ultimate trip with one of 2022's most controversial films, and controversial it is. Goodness gracious me! Yeah, this movie is a super low budget horror, psychedelic, sci-fi nuttiness. This movie is think of what's that movie that you've seen, Steven, The Greasy Strangler?
Ah,
Something similar like that. Make it
beautiful
throw
movie.
some John Waters disturbing, crazy, I don't give a shit stuff in here. Um, Irredeemable, disgusting characters doing disgusting things. Man, it's a movie. It is a movie. And I think it premiered at Fantasia Fest, which we've talked about on the podcast before.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Fantasia Fest, that's the one in Montreal that
Yes.
we talked
Yes.
about. And yeah, it's wow, what a movie. You got to experience it, but I have to warn people, it's going to offend the hell out of you. It's going to disturb you. The climax of this movie is just one long psychedelic trippy sequence. So these people keep eating these worms, and these worms just take these people on just crazy, crazy hallucinogenic acid trips to crazy town. And man, it's disturbing. It's wild. But that's All Jacked Up and Full of Worms. What a title too.
That's I love it. I love that
It's
title. Yeah.
so wild.
All
Um,
jacked up.
yeah, All Jacked Up.
It makes me
Uh,
think of the Talladega Nights kid. Oh, jacked up a Mountain Dew.
yeah, All Jacked Up and Mountain Dew. I've been thinking of that lately. Don't ask me why. But
I know
it's
why. I know why you've been thinking about it.
why have I thinking? Why have I been thinking of it?
You've been thinking of Talladega Nights lately because you saw an article that said Nolan loved Talladega Nights.
That's what it was. That's what it was.
How did I know that?
Also, speaking of Mountain Dew craziness, you know they made Mountain Dew flavored hot dogs that you can buy at the
Nothing
supermarket,
surprises me.
and they're green, and they Mountain Dew flavored hot dogs.
They come
And I
up
was
with
like, I can't believe this exists.
they come up with disgusting stuff all the time. This doesn't surprise me.
I don't know who's buying it. I don't know who's buying it.
honestly, Lay's chips are even worse than what Pepsi does. Like every day, there's I feel like there's a new potato chip that comes out. You're like, what the fuck? Who thought of this?
Who
shit?
thought of combining these things?
Yeah, like it's
No,
it never ends.
No, thank you. I know they're trying to squeeze every last dollar out of us, but damn.
Yeah.
Damn. Speaking of squeezing every last dollar out of us, let's go to 88 Films just to get this out of the way. 88 Films loves to just throw a bunch of
their
stuff at us.
upcoming announces, just to remind us that they're still out there.
Just to tell us that, hey, we're still here, we're still ready to roll. So this is not even. Just trying to make heads or tails out of this sometimes hurts my head. So let's see this. So they had a roundup of they just announced a bunch of things, some re-releases, some new stuff going on. So I'm just going to read their Facebook posts. So, roundup. Some but not all of our quarter four titles are now available for pre-order. We still have November titles to announce, which we are hoping to include the re-release and updated version of House on the Edge of the Park UHD, plus an update for Miami Vice. I completely forgot that they announced that they were going to be putting out Miami Vice, the Oliver Stone film starring Jamie Foxx and um, what's his name, Steven?
Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell. I almost said Clive Owen. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me. I have no
He
idea
would
why.
have been good in that role.
Yeah, he would have. It would have been some good timing as well. So, a little slower than our usual quarter four lineup, but we are only announcing titles now that we are 99% sure we can hit release dates for. This also allows us to take pre-orders on our 88 website at the time of announcements. We are hopeful that we can drop some surprise titles into our lineup too, so expect some random and cool announcements without warning. Well, it wouldn't be 88 style without that happening. Um, so yeah, they're announcing some things. Um, Man, I don't even know where to start.
Well, we got Battle Creek Brawl, which is one of the ones they re-released. I have this on their Blu-ray that they initially put out. They've
Yeah,
been putting out these deluxe editions, and yeah, they're nice, and I like them. I'm slightly tempted to want to get like this one because this is one of the ones I got on Blu-ray that I didn't get the slipcover with it, so I would kind of
yeah,
be tempted,
this is a
but
big deluxe edition.
yeah,
So
but
yeah,
yeah.
and there's some their October stuff is I think they're re-releases. So October re-releases, represses, and a replacement program releases. Here we go. So on October 9th, they're coming out Ark of the Sun God in a standalone release, Hell of the Living Dead in a it says 4K UHD restored and remastered. This update now in Dolby Vision and fully regraded is now available for pre-order. The updated discs are being manufactured and the replacement program update is coming soon. Okay. But also on October 9th, they're coming out Hell of the Living Dead in a standalone release. October 16th, they're coming out with Knockoff. And then also on October 16th, the Anaconda collection is getting a slim case re-release. So if you need to get more Anaconda in your life, it's on
Oh
its
man, that
way.
was wow! I can't believe you said that.
Didn't realize what I was saying until I just said that.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at some of their other
Yeah, we got
announcements.
another Jackie Chan movie that I don't know that has had a release from them yet. The Medallion from 2003. I've never seen this one, but of course I'm going to have to get it because I get all the Jackie Chan. Also stars Lee Evans, Claire Filani. Have you seen that one? Have you seen
The Medallion?
Yeah.
No, I remember when it came out though. I remember
I
seeing
do too.
trailers for it.
Yeah. This is when Jackie Chan was in the height of Rush Hour fame.
This was post Rush Hour. I think this is even post Rush Hour 2.
Yeah.
I mean, this was 2003. But after a high-kicking Hong Kong cop, Eddie Yang, dies in duty, he finds himself reanimated by an ancient mystic talisman. Now with superpowers at his disposal, his return stuns his former girlfriend, Nicole James, Claire Forlani, who was in Meet Joe Black, and partner Arthur Watson, Lee Evans, and his right-hand man, Calvin. Scott Adkins, shot in English in the UK by director Gordon Chan and choreographed Sammo Hung. Okay, we're going to talk about Sammo Hung a little bit later on as well. The Medallion delivers a whole new kind of magic to a Jackie Chan action epic. So that's coming out October 23rd. We got some other ones here. Iron Warrior, which is a film I know nothing about. The Inspector Wears Skirts. Blue Jean Monster is another one. Those actually are December releases. So Inspectors Wear Skirts is coming out in December. Blue Jean Monster is coming out in December. The Medallion's October 23rd. The Iron Warrior's October 23rd. Hell of the Living Dead, which did I talk about that already?
Yeah.
October 9th. Yeah, I'm on two different sites. That's why. All right. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff. I'd go to 88 Films' probably their website or their Facebook page to get a lowdown of all of the stuff that they've got coming out. But let's move on from there before my head starts hurting anymore from all this stuff.
Sure.
So let's move on now to Severin, right? Yeah, we finally reached it.
the Sev. All right.
Severin coming in hot.
Yeah, they kept coming with another one of their amazing box sets. I mean,
They are
I
indeed.
don't know if the content is amazing, but it is, of course, once again an amazing looking box set called Cushing Curiosities. And who's Cushing? Peter Cushing, the man. You know, we always kind of put him beside the other man, Christopher Lee, because they were doing their great work around the same time. So they're both cult British actors.
Yeah, like Hammer Horror Legends.
Yeah, and so with this set here, we get 4 films or five
There's 5
films.
films and then a
There's
television series. Yeah.
yeah. So disc 1 is going to have 1960s Cone of Silence. Disc 2 has 2 films. We have 1960s Two Suspects or Two Suspect. And then the second film is from 1962, The Man Who Finally Died. That's dark. And then 1968, we have a Sherlock Holmes. I guess this is the TV series.
Yes.
I'm guessing on disc 3 and 4. We had the Peter Cushing Sherlock Holmes from the BBC. Then disc 5 has 1971's Bloodsuckers. Great title. And then on disc 6, we have 1974's Tender Dracula. Ooh, that sounds good. And then, that's it for the set. And then we also get a single release of a film I'm hearing a lot of people buzzing about, being told this is actually a really, really good film called Clear Cut.
That's currently streaming on various places. I think Canopy has it, Shudder has it, et cetera, et cetera. But they're also re-releasing, I think, a couple of standard editions as well. They're releasing Footprints, Dracula and Son, Identikit.
The stuff from that House of Psychotic Women set.
Yeah, I know Identikit isn't. Yeah, Story of a Cloistered Nun and The Psychic. And The Psychic looks like a 4K UHD edition, hence why it's double the price of these other ones. But back to the Peter Cushing set, because I got to watch a few of these films. Actually, I got to watch about 4 out of 5 of them. The last one, which is Tender
Dracula.
Tender Dracula is I did not get to watch because I couldn't find it. But so I want to preface this by saying this is indeed a Peter Cushing box set, but the movies in it have Peter Cushing in them. But Peter Cushing isn't the main star of these films. He's in the movies, sometimes in much smaller screen time than you would expect. For example, in Cone of Silence, he doesn't show up until like 47 minutes into the movie, and the movie is like an hour and a half long or so. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where he's in it in a smaller role. So don't go into buying this thinking, "Oh my goodness, I'm getting so much Peter Cushing, I'm gonna lose my mind." That's not the case. That's not the case at all. He's very good when he comes on screen, and you recognize him almost immediately. And these films are interesting because they range in everything from like stuffy British dramas to like culty 1970s like vampire picks. You know what I mean? Vampire films. So Cone of Silence is a movie that's kind of stuffy, kind of British, kind of more interesting than I would say engrossing, because it's about planes. It's about just the way in which they I'll get to the description of it. And what is interesting is a lot of these movies have different they have different titles depending on where they were exhibited in the world. For example, the original title of Cone of Silence is Cone of Silence, but it's also called Trouble in the Sky. That's another title for this movie.
I like that title.
It's better than Cone of Silence. way better than Cone of Silence and is more accurate to the movie. So in Britain, at the dawn of the jet-powered commercial aviation, an aircraft manufacturer tries to shift the blame from mechanical failure to pilot error when its newest jet airliner has a series of accidents. So in a way, it's a very interesting film about like corporate corruption and corporate greed and stuff like that, where at the very beginning of this film there is a pilot or a plane crash, and the pilot survives, and they're grilling him about what happened, and they're trying to blame it on him and not blame it on the plane itself, because they have so much money and things invested in the plane that they can't afford to admit that there's something wrong with these new jet powered planes. And that kind of spurs the rest of the movie on, where Peter Cushing comes in later, and he is someone who is brought in to investigate whether it's the pilots, what the pilots are doing. Like, he follows them on their routes and judges them and grills them about procedure and all this kind of stuff. That's where Peter Cushing comes in. So the movie is rather interesting in that, and you see a couple of character actors in the film. For example, I would say one of the main characters in this film is Bernard Lee. He plays Captain Gort, who is like the main pilot who got blamed for this crash early on in the film, and it's kind of mostly his story about his integrity and his reputation and all that kind of stuff. It's a rather interesting film. It may be a little boring to some, but I found it kind of rather interesting. For me, these movies, if you're rating them on Letterboxd, are kind of 3-star movies and lower. They're not really great films, in my opinion. This is just me talking. You know what I mean? So they're kind of just fine, middling films. But moving on from there, what's the second film in the set? The second film is Suspect. Um, Suspect is a movie that I think also had another title. Maybe it didn't, because Suspect is already kind of so a government team researching. Oh yeah, no, a government team researching cures for plague find their results put on official secrets list. One of their number is so incensed by this that he lets the maimed and jealous companion of a female colleague draw him into what technically could be a treasonous act. This is one of the films where Peter Cushing is in this film very, very briefly as some type of scientist guy, like doing something. So basically, they discover this cure for some plague that's going on, and the government decides to like keep it under wraps and keep them from publishing the results, because they're afraid of it getting out and being used for like military purposes or something like that. But some people decide to some people actually get tricked into leaking it to like this enemy foreign power or something like that. And it's all about like espionage and things like that. But Peter Cushing is in the film very, very briefly. And yeah, but the man who finally died is an interesting film, and kind of I should mention also, the Suspect also has a very small role done by Donald Pleasance, which is very cool to see him pop up on screen. He plays some evil guy from the foreign power that wants the formula for this cure or something. But the man who finally dies sees um he's yeah, Peter Cushing plays a very small role of this doctor who. So the premise is basically this: this man shows up to this village to basically be he thinks he's going to be reacquainted with his long lost father, and it turns out his father died a week before he got there. But he also said that my father called me on the phone and told me to come meet him here. So what the heck is going on? And you get down this rabbit hole of this guy trying to figure out what happened to his long lost father, who he hasn't seen since he was a kid, and he thinks his father may be buried in some type of other site. Why was his father killed and all this kind of stuff? Or maybe was his father killed? You don't really know. But Peter Cushing is involved in it because he's part of this conspiracy to hide the death of this guy's father. Um, and yeah, it's a kind of like a who done it, twist and turnsy type thing, mystery, and you find out why. It's interesting.
Okay.
Um, but what is most fascinating coming up here is this 1968 Sherlock Holmes thing. This is Peter Cushing reprising his role that he did in the 1959 Hammer film as Sherlock Holmes. But the kicker with this, and kind of the sad part about this, there's only 6 episodes of this show surviving, like, left around.
Hmm.
And there were many episodes of the show if you've done, like, if you go back and do the research on it. So what would happen back in the day is that once the networks were, once the networks were done with certain shows or done airing certain shows and it kind of used up their use, they never thought of things like rebroadcasting. They never thought of things like home media. They never thought of anything like that. So they would just erase like the tapes and use them for other things. And this happened with a lot of notable shows. It happened with Doctor Who as well, being probably one of the most notable shows, where there are just some episodes from back in the 60s of Doctor Who that just don't exist anymore. They're just gone. And a lot of that, and that is the case here with this Sherlock Holmes show with Peter Cushing as Sherlock Holmes. And there's only like 6 of these surviving, and they've been released on DVD before. They've been exhibited on TV before and whatnot. But I think this is one of the first times they're available on Blu-ray, actually. So that's just absolutely fascinating, but also sad that there's only 6 of these left.
Well, honestly, when you say there's only 6, I was just the first thing that came to my mind was that a lot of British TV don't overplay. They don't do shows the same as American TV, where they play it out for 20 plus episodes a season, or like it's like if you look at the most recent
Even now,
Sherlock,
yeah, you're right. Even
know,
now,
yeah,
even now, American television and British television is very, very different. Um, in that regard, just in terms of the length of the shows, the length of the episodes, length of the seasons are all radically different. But even going back to back then, like I couldn't imagine a US broadcast show, let's say, the I Love Lucy show from the 1950s. I couldn't imagine the network then erasing the tapes of that show. You know what I mean? Like I
yeah.
couldn't imagine that. You know what I mean? I couldn't imagine US network TV doing that. Um, it's not like kind of, the way movies were, where they just once they were done exhibiting them in theaters, they just got rid of the movies or just didn't store them properly. TV seems to be a whole different regard because TV is not as old as movies are. TV really has only been around since the 1950s for the most part. Um, but it's very sad that we've lost so much of that, Sherlock Holmes stuff from Peter Cushing. So now we get to Bloodsuckers from 1971, which this movie also has an alternate title that's not called Bloodsuckers. Um, this is a movie in which Peter Cushing is in 5 minutes of this movie, 5 to 10 minutes of the most part. Um, so this movie really concentrates on these group of people who are trying to find their friend. So the title of this movie, if you go on IMDb and look for it, it's called Incense for the Damned, which is a cooler title, maybe than Bloodsuckers. A little less on the nose, I say.
Sure.
So a group of friends go to find their friend who they haven't had contact with, who went on vacation in Greece, and he hasn't contacted them. He hasn't shown back up to school at Oxford, and basically, his dad is concerned about his whereabouts. Like, what is he doing? What's he been up to? Why hasn't he returned? And apparently, he's like some person who's like the valedictorian at the school. He's one of those good upstanding people. So what's he getting into? Well, lo and behold, he's fallen into the clutches and the enchantments of a vampire. And so his buddies have to go there and kind of save him. But do they really save him? That's the question.
Mm.
And and
Bloodsuckers.
Peter Cushing is like, I think he's the headmaster at the school, or no, he's hold on. Yeah. Yeah, no, he's the father of the guy's girlfriend, of the person that they're going to save. Yeah, her name is Penelope Goodrich, and Peter Cushing's character is Walter Goodrich. So you see him at the beginning of the movie, you see him at the very end of the movie, but Peter Cushing is not in the middle at all. So I just want to preface that. So that's that movie, and this movie's not very good. It's probably the worst I saw in this box set because it's so effing uninteresting. But Tender Dracula, apparently I heard, is worse. But I didn't get to see it because it's impossible to find. So it's never before been available on disc in North America. The first and only film in which Peter Cushing portrayed a vampire is also the most unapologetically bizarre movie of his entire career. I'm reading this straight from the Severin website. When horror's biggest star, Peter Cushing, announces his retirement from the genre, two dimwit screenwriters and a pair of sexy actresses are dispatched to the actor's castle for a lavish farce de horror, erotique of violence, whippings, orgies, tender romance, and a devilishly dignified performance by Cushing. Even while spanking the rear bottom of French starlet Miu Miu, boy,
Well,
Lady Valia and Bernard Menez and co-star to in the sole feature film directed by award-winning producer Pierre Grunstein. Um, yeah, I probably butchered all those names. Um, but yeah, this is coming from restored print.
and that is the Christopher Lee box set. Of course, coming with a
Ton
large
of features.
booklet.
Yeah.
Ton of features, large booklet.
It says 16
Uh,
plus hours of special features officially.
yeah, I mean
So
it's
that's Severin. So we've got two Christopher Lee box sets. We've got a Peter Cushing box set, and we've got two Umberto Lenzi box sets, plus House of Psychotic Women, plus all the Haunts BRs, and some
Al,
other
Al
things. Al
Adamson.
Adamson. I know
Uh,
Stephen, you got a couple of those.
yeah, the Ray Dennis Steckler,
Yep.
Andy Milligan. So
Tons of
yeah,
box sets from them.
tons
Tons
of
of stuff.
boxes.
Tons of
Yep.
good stuff. But you know where we also have good stuff from? Criterion.
Ah,
And they dropped a interesting group of films. Um very solid group of films. So we're gonna get into these releases to end our episode. And yeah, Steven, let's run these down and then let's
well,
let's dive into these a little bit.
yes. So we know Criterion has a very good relationship with the Scorsese, as I call them, and I'm going to shout out our friend Dan, who just continues to think that they're going to do some kind of Scorsese box set. And I keep telling him, I don't think that it's going to happen. And this just keeps showing me that it's probably not going to happen. Because why put out another, why keep putting out single movies if they're going to,
Well, they've done
go,
well. In his defense, they have done that before. What you're saying?
well, they have,
Well,
but
like with Bergman, I bought all the single Bergman movies on
but
Blu-ray, and then they
but
put
then
out the
again,
box set, and I felt
but
like a
then
dumbass.
again, Bergman had been in the collection for so long.
Right?
I
They
mean, I
did
mean,
the
like,
they did the same thing with Fellini. They did the same thing with Agnes Varda.
but we're at a point now that if there was going to be a Scorsese box set and we knew they were going to do it eventually, do you really put out single editions? But at this point, like, I think
I
I don't know.
I would hope they wouldn't do it just so
Yeah,
that I wouldn't feel like a dumbass for buying all these single ones again, because I'm
but
gonna get this. And the movie we're talking about is Mean Streets.
Mean
They're
Streets, yeah,
putting
this
out
is
Mean
this is a
Streets.
big one. Yeah, this is in a lot of people's eyes kind of his first movie. I mean, like it's not. There was some other
No,
movies before this, but I think this kind of was for a lot of people, and it was for me. It was my introduction to Scorsese was Mean Streets.
yeah, this was an early watch for me as well. I think I had seen more of his more prominent stuff, and then went back and watched Mean Streets and was like, oh, so that's where all of that stuff came from.
Yeah,
Um, for example, I probably saw Goodfellas first, Taxi Driver. I probably saw The Departed and other stuff. But if you go back and watch Mean Streets, a lot of the stuff he would do later on, he started doing in Mean Streets. Mean
yeah,
Streets came out in 1973, so it is the 50th anniversary of this movie. So this is a heck of a 50th anniversary release. It is a 4K UHD Blu-ray combo release. And we're getting all of the special features that came on the Blu-ray release that Warner Brothers put out, oh gee, many moons ago at this point. And also there was a release in Europe, I think, that had special features that release didn't, and they're bringing those special features in as well, so that you kind of get everything in a comprehensive set, which is really nice. So yeah, the Mean Streets release that I have on Blu-ray that's been around for a while came out in 2012. And there was a Mean Streets release put out by Icon Productions in the UK, and they they had the same release. They had the same special features, but then I think there was another one that had a more deluxe packaging that was put out somewhere. Can't remember. I don't know where. But anywho, you're getting more special features on this release than you have on the current Blu-ray that exists. That's the main
Yeah.
thing. That's the main thing. Um, and those special features are very interesting. You get a new video essay. You got an interview with the cinematographer. You get excerpt from a documentary. You get Back on the Block, which is very interesting, with Scorsese revisiting the locations of which he grew up in, where he's kind of set Mean Streets. This is a very biographical film for him, or autobiographical film for him. That's what I find so fascinating about Mean Streets is how lived in the world feels. Um, yeah, of course, it stars his usual group of guys, uh, Robert De Niro, Harvey Keitel. They're playing street level gangsters, Italian gangsters in the 1970s New York. And if you've ever heard Scorsese talk about his childhood, these are the types of dudes that lived in his world when he was growing up, were these street level guys. The Goodfellas guys were dudes who were much higher up in the mafia, probably not so much people he met or associated with. But yeah, so Mean Streets is such a gritty, brilliant
Yeah.
film. For anyone listening who hasn't seen Mean Streets, definitely watch it.
Yeah,
Young Robert De Niro.
honestly, I always preferred it to some of the later gangster movies that he did. Honestly, I mean, personally, I take more pleasure in rewatching Mean Streets than I do Goodfellas. Personally, I know that's probably like everybody's like, but
Sacrilege.
I just for some reason this movie fits my. I feel like the stereotypes of that genre are not as like overwhelming in this movie
Oh
than they
yeah.
are.
Oh, if you're comparing Mean Streets to Goodfellas, Mean Streets is so stripped down.
It's
It's
stripped
raw,
down. Yeah.
gritty. Like you get to like the heart and the soul of these characters in it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Goodfellas does have a lot of
It's more
polish and shine
sprawling.
to
It's more
it.
sprawling.
Yeah,
It's yeah.
it's so the characters are different. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, in Mean Streets, it's so real, if I could use that term.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad this is getting a 50th anniversary release. I would love for them to just straight up just release even his earlier stuff in this.
Well,
Release.
if there was a box set coming of more Scorsese, I would say that some of the stuff that's earlier than this that they haven't put out in a good edition yet, like Boxcar Bertha and stuff like that, like that's what you could put in a box set, like an early Scorsese, thing there. But I just don't see them putting out, because so much of his stuff is scattered anyway. Like
Mm,
they're not gonna get Wolf of Wall Street. It's already been put out by Arrow,
yeah,
and
I
like
mean, I was just looking on so far. They put out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Scorsese films,
and
including
then
his
there's
shorts.
shorts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. So they put out 9 releases, one including his short films. Um, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with his upcoming film that's coming out, Killers of the Flower Moon. I don't know if that's going to get a Criterion release at some point. Um, so who knows? But yeah, I would love. Who's that knocking at my door?
Yeah.
Alice doesn't live here anymore. New York, New York. I know New York, New York has a Blu-ray release from Warner Brothers. I know Who's That Knocking at My Door only has a DVD release. Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore only has a DVD release. So those would be higher priority. I know Boxcar Bertha got a Blu-ray release from Twilight Time, Once Upon a Time, which you can still probably track down. It may be a little more expensive than
It's
you would
gonna
be
get
willing to pay.
it'll get
And the
re-released
chances of
somewhere.
getting, like you said, chances of getting a re-release by somebody is pretty high, pretty
Yeah.
high. So moving on from the brilliance of Mean Streets, we've got some other stuff here, Steven.
Yes. So some of these are ones that are already in collection already, and then now reappearing on 4K. So we got The Last Picture Show. getting a 4K edition. This was part of that set, right? The
This was part
BBC.
of one of the Columbia, one of those Columbia sets that was put out by Sony. So this is going to be this probably the same exact transfer from there. And I think this was put out. Let's see. I'm trying to. Oh yeah, it was put out in their Columbia Classics Collection Volume 3 4K set,
Yeah.
which came out in 2022, and this is their most recent set. I don't know if they're putting out any more of those sets. I have no idea. I know they sold well. Um, that first set you can buy for an exorbitant amount of money on eBay right now if you have the means. But yeah, this came out in that volume 3 set, so it's probably gonna be the same transfer. Slightly different features though. What this includes, which wins it over for me, it includes another film. It includes Texasville, which is the sequel to The Last Picture Show, which came out in 1990, which I don't believe has gotten a Blu-ray release, at least not here. And so that's something that's definitely wins me over. Yeah, Texasville has only
Well,
gotten a Blu-ray release in France.
yeah.
That's it, and that came out last year. So it's
Yeah.
never gotten a Blu-ray release here in the US at all.
And now, like I said, this was part of that set though that they had the
Oh,
BBS.
that set.
Yeah,
Yes. This was
that's what I
part
was
of the
talking about.
BBS set from that came out in like
Criterion.
2010.
So this has already been in the Criterion collection. It's just now getting its own edition by itself in 4K. So
Yes, but it didn't have it didn't have Texasville as a special feature.
no.
So this is something new, something
Sure.
different.
Yeah.
And I don't believe Texasville was included in that Columbia Classics set either. So that's also something that kind of, makes this more attractive to collectors like me, and you and everyone else. But yeah, you're right. This was in the BBS set.
Yeah. But the other stuff, the other one that's returning that I think either people are going to be upset that this is returning because they didn't think it was going to be returning, and that's Days of Heaven.
Yeah, we go.
Because
Yeah, we go.
yeah. We thought this was going to be out of print, and then
No, thought it was gone. It was out of print.
well, I mean, it
It
went.
literally
That's what I'm
was.
saying. It went out of print, and it was going to be gone because then Paramount put it out.
Yeah, Paramount put out their own separate release of it.
Yeah,
Like a
yeah.
year or two ago, maybe 2 years ago. So people were like, and then so when the Criterion went out of print, people scrambled and bought it up, or they paid overpriced prices for it, or all that kind of stuff, and just for it to come back in style,
Right back to us in 4K with the new restoration
in 4K too. What a twist of the knife!
Of course, same features. I'm sure it's all the same stuff.
I don't see Terrence Malick making features in this day and age.
No.
The movie is going to look gorgeous though, so it's
Well,
gonna
if you've
be
already
worth
got the Paramount
it.
release, I'm sure you know that already.
Yeah, but the Paramount release was only a Blu-ray, it wasn't a 4K.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
I'm pretty
pitiful.
sure it wasn't.
I was sure that somebody put it out on 4K.
Let's see, Days of Heaven. I also do want to mention that the Mean Streets cover art was done by Sister Hyde.
Looks great.
Yeah, and it looks fantastic. It's got like was it like Harvey Keitel and Robert De Niro kind of split faced on the cover there. Yeah, it looks absolutely fantastic. But yeah, Days of Heaven, no, it had a 4K. Nope, the only 4K is the one that's coming out in November.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Paramount release came out in 2021. Yeah, and The Last Picture Show, of course, is directed by the late great Peter Bogdanovich. I can't recommend that movie enough. I think it's one of the best movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's good.
So it's fantastic. I've never seen the sequel though, so I'm kind of excited to see the sequel. I wanted to get the sequel on DVD many years ago, but I just never tracked it down because I think the DVD may have been out of print or tough to find or something like that. Or maybe it was one of those where I didn't want to watch a sequel to a movie I thought was perfect. Do you ever get that? Get that feeling?
Yeah, I mean it's
like this movie's perfect. I don't want to watch a sequel that would do anything to affect my thoughts about the original.
I felt that way when the Dumb and Dumber sequel came out. I know this is a weird
A
a
weird
a,
transition.
a weird movie to compare it to in a way, but like I love that movie. I love the original Dumb and Dumber a lot, and then when they finally decided to make a sequel, I was like, God, this is gonna fuck it up. I know it. I just know it. And then it was terrible.
That's
Um,
because yeah, it's because they try to go back and not they do retcon some things, but they try to build on the
the previous,
characters in different
yeah,
ways,
yeah,
and you see I don't have to explain sequels to people, but sometimes sequels can change things from the original, which is unfortunate. I mean, yeah, that's a whole other story for a different time, but yeah, so Days of Heaven 4K UHD release, going to look amazing. But we've got two other things here. One is a box set, and one is just a one film release, but it's from an old friend of ours, at least somebody who's gotten a lot of releases since we've started this podcast, and that is Claude Chabrol's La Cérémonie, starring um, Isabelle Huppert. Uh,
hmm
yes, and this is a fascinating movie. This is a later career film. By later career, I mean 1995. Even though I'm pretty sure Claude Chabrol was making movies into the 2000s. But yeah, so this is Claude Chabrol's 49th feature, and I'm just going to read this here, stands as the crowning achievement of his prolific career, a coolly riveting study of class dynamics, the psychology of crime, and the sordid secrets lurking beneath the veneer of everyday life. A fascinating, enigmatic, Caesar Award-winning Isabelle Huppert is the chaotic yin to Sandrine Bonnier's tightly coiled yang. Yeah, Sandrine Bonnier plays the main character of this film. They are respectively a small town postal worker and a maid to a wealthy family, a pair of outsiders who form a mysterious alliance that gradually, almost imperceptibly, goes haywire. With a master's control of sound editing and suspense, Claude Chabrol constructs a tour de force of sustained tension that delivers each brilliant shock with ice pick precision. A little overselling the movie, but I get it. I get it. This is a very, very good movie. Um,
okay,
Very good movie. Think of hitting on the same type of uh, themes of classism that Parasite is dealing with. The movie from a couple of years ago by Bong Joon-ho. It's dealing with that, and it's very, very good. So Sandrine Bonner, she plays this character who gets hired as a maid for this rich, wealthy family who are basically a bunch of assholes, and and they just treat her like she's just a thing. Like she's just around. Like they'll have conversations about her, and she's in the next room. Like she can hear them, but they have no sense of awareness that she is a real person with real thoughts and real feelings. They're assholes. They're grade A assholes, and she's working for them, and she finds this kind of outlet when she meets this Isabelle Huppert character who is a postal worker, but she's kind of eccentric. Like she does things that kind of go against the society around her. And she's kind of an oddball, if you will, but she becomes endeared to her and she kind of gets, goes with her on these little like weird adventures that they do together and whatnot, and gives her this outlet from her world. But she's also harboring a secret that is it's I don't want to say what the secret is, but she's also harboring a secret that she's trying to hide as well. And yeah, the movie is very, very well made, well acted, just fantastic. Like Claude Chabrol is an amazing director, and yeah, a lot of his work has gotten Blu-ray releases within the last year or two. We got two box sets from Arrow. We've got this movie here, and then some other things got released as well. So yeah, he's got a lot of stuff in the Blu-ray realm now, which I'm super glad about.
yeah,
And this has never been in the collection before, so it's not a re-release.
yeah. This is
It,
I mean, the box set's new too, but
Right,
yeah,
right, right.
yeah,
But this is spine number 1199. What a number. Yeah, so I'm curious to dive into this because of the new special features and stuff. So yeah, definitely recommend this movie. Um, it is streaming on the Criterion channel right now, so you can watch it there. Mean Streets, I don't know where it's streaming on, but it's on the Criterion channel. There you go. Days of Heaven, I wanted to see is not streaming, not a big shock. Um, and the Last Picture Show is streaming on Criterion Channel, and what also is streaming on the Criterion Channel, Stephen, is all of these Jackie Chan films in this box set.
Yes, once again, somebody's releasing these movies that have already been released on Blu-ray.
Oh, how pissed were
By
you
the
when this was announced?
Well, no, I'm not pissed. I'm just it's funny how these keep getting recycled in different ways.
Yeah.
But yes, we are getting another Jackie Chan set. Of course, Criterion has already done what the Police Story
And Police
movies.
Story 2, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah, they did their Bruce Lee box set, which is obviously not Jackie Chan, but still,
yeah,
there's a trend now diving into Asian kung fu cinema and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
everybody's getting in on that act right now.
yeah. So this set's called Jackie Chan: Emergence of a Superstar. Originally tapped as a potential successor to Bruce Lee, Hong Kong martial arts phenom Jackie Chan soon established his own unique screen persona, blending goofball slapstick with bone-crunching kung fu into intricate feats of supercharged athleticism. Tracing this rise from breakout star to full-fledged amateur tour. Sorry. These six unabashedly silly, unstoppable, entertaining early career highlights find Chan redefining the lovable, mischievous image that would make him a global icon while also assuming greater creative control over his projects. First as his own martial arts choreographer, and later as a writer-director who set a thrilling new standard for daredevil action comedy. So the films in here are Half a Loaf of Kung Fu, Spiritual Kung Fu, The Fearless Hyena, Fearless Hyena 2, The Young Master, and My Lucky Stars. And I believe most of these have been released either on 88 Films or Eureka.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
many people who are listening probably already own it. I
yes,
know Steven does.
yeah.
Steven owns
I
several
think
of
I
these.
own all of these maybe already. I know I own Half Loaf of Kung Fu. Um, I believe I own Fearless Hyena, Young Master, My Lucky Stars. The only one I'm wondering if I own Fearless Hyena 2, in Spiritual
I
Kung
got some
Fu.
stuff to say about all of these, but um, like I said, all of these are streaming on the Criterion channel. They've been streaming on there for quite a while. They've been streaming on there for like at least a year. They've been on there for a while, maybe leading us to believe that this box set was on the horizon anyway. But yeah, so early Jackie Chan stuff from the 1970s are these action comedies, these goofy action comedies, like Half a Loaf of Kung Fu, Spiritual Kung Fu are very goofy. Um, Fearless Hyena, I thought was rather good. This is where things get interesting, Steven. So Fearless Hyena 2 isn't actually a movie. It is and it isn't. So interesting story behind Fearless Hyena 2. Um, he So he was supposed to make the sequel to Fearless Hyena, but one of the producers that he was working with left the company that he was working with and went over to Golden Harvest. And the guy said, "Hey, if you want to come over to Golden Harvest with me, come over." Um, and he ended up breaking his contract with this other producer while they were making Fearless Hyena 2. So Fearless Hyena 2 is an amalgamation movie made up of like unused and reused footage from Fearless Hyena, plus using a stand-in for Jackie Chan to construct the movie. So
Mm,
it's not really a movie.
awesome.
It's a Frankenstein movie, and it definitely is not good at all. It is so obviously due to the constraints of the production. It's a movie that Jackie Chan has tried to tried to stop the release of because it was so bad. And I'm pretty sure if you bring it up to him, he's not gonna like you. Um, but all of the other films in here are at least good in my opinion. This is such early pre most of these movies are pre-Police Story. Um, Definitely the only one I think is post-Police Story is My Lucky Stars. My Lucky Stars I remember I mentioned Sammo Hung earlier. Sammo Hung, directs this film. He directed My Lucky Stars. Coincidentally, it's the only one of these movies I didn't get a chance to see. But Sammo Hung obviously being, um, the director, fight choreographer, writer, et cetera, actor. I think he's also in the film as well. And they were like long-standing friends and stuff like that. So what is also interesting is I think that The Young Master is Jackie Chan's first film he ever directed, and this was also his first film at Golden Harvest as well. This is 1980. So, yeah, because I believe this was before Police Story and Police Story 2, which he directed both of those films. So this is a very interesting historical box set, really. If you're into Jackie Chan's work, his early work, if you don't own these already, obviously this is a good box set for you. But if you own these already, I don't know what we're talking about in terms of crossover with special features between these and the 88 films and the Eureka sets and all that kind of stuff. There's some new things here. There's a new audio commentaries for The Fearless Hyena, The Young Master, featuring Frank Zhang, who seems to be all over these releases, regardless of who's putting them out. Um, yeah, there's archival interviews with Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung. Yeah, this is just another box set from Criterion that's fascinating to me. This will go right next to their Police Story release. Yeah, I got to watch all of these, and for the most part, they start to run together plot wise after a while. like I don't know how many times I could watch Jackie Chan just be silly and kick people's asses, but also get his ass kicked, then have to do some training, and then go back and kick the guy's ass who kicked his ass. And it's like these are all like the same plots over and over again. But if you're a Jackie Chan enthusiast, like I said, it's definitely must watch stuff. Must watch stuff. Um, so yeah, that's it from Criterion, really.
Yeah, man. They once again, I think a really cool month. A lot of good stuff there. I'm
super diverse. And if we didn't mention, these are the November titles.
Yeah.
So technically, there's still one more month of releases left for 2023, and who knows what December will hold.
Usually November is the last really exciting month of the year when it comes to releases. So we'll see. We'll see. Maybe they'll surprise us in December this year. But I was hoping there was going to be some cool box set of some kind announced in November, but yeah, we got Mean Streets. All right, man. Well, that is it for spy number 112 of Chasing Labels. I almost forgot what show we were doing.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah. Where can you be found, Andrew?
You can find me on Twitter /X at Capzilla06, as well as our YouTube channel, Chasing Labels.
And you can find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings, or at the other Chasing Labels pages, whether it's our X. It just doesn't have the same flow.
It doesn't sound good at all.
Yeah, X.
Terrible branding. Terrible.
I know. Or over at Instagram, or at my letterbox. You can follow me over there, see what I'm watching. You can also find the audio for the podcast on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and other places. Thanks again for listening. And hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.